Well, certainly it's a delight to have you here today. We had a couple call that say they couldn't be here, but we are delighted that you're here. And we want to thank you so very, very much for the pleasure of your company as we actually are initiating something very new here in the state of Pennsylvania, right here at the Calvin House. For a while, the Pennsylvania Pastors Network has been in existence, and of course, Sam Rohr is the president of the Pennsylvania Pastors Network. And earlier this year, we expanded to being what we call the American Pastors Network, and we're looking at having chapters all across the country. Right now, we've got the Pennsylvania Pastors Network, we have the North Carolina Pastors Network, we have a couple of other states that we are anticipating will be with us one of these days soon. Some contacts up in New York, perhaps Texas, maybe even Oregon. But the Lord is doing a great work through this ministry. And we are certainly delighted to have you folks with us today. This gathering is a part of our ministry called the Ministers Together Initiative. And you're going to hear more about that as time goes on, but it's the idea that those of you who are pastors are ministers in the pulpit, and those of you who are in government are God's ministers in government, according to Romans chapter 13. And so we are excited about where we are going to be able to go from this particular point, and just trusting the Lord will bless. But next week we have another gathering up in the, I guess it's the Williamsport area. And then beyond that, we go to Lancaster. Beyond that, we'll go to the Philadelphia area and other areas to have gatherings just like this. And so we're delighted to have you. You are the initial group. I don't know what that means, but you know, you can pat yourself on the shoulder and say, I'm a part of the initial group. And we're just delighted that you're here with us today.
This is a new initiative of Ministers Together. My time in the House and over the 18 years, I guess came to a point of understanding from my own mind. I asked the question, why am I here? What is the expectation that God has for me being here? I think many who are in office know that God called them there. To the extent that they know why or what they are to do from a biblical perspective is a different question. Many who are in the pulpit know that they are there because God called them there. Many in the pulpit, though, don't actually do from the pulpit what God expects, just like many in office don't do what God expects. And really the basis for this initiative is to try and take a look at what God has said and try to put that into place. We are in perilous times. I think we all know that. The foundations of liberty are being shaken and the terms even redefined. It seems to me that many people blame our problems on politicians. And many in office tend to blame our problems on the silence of the church. In reality, I think Ezekiel chapter 22 tells us that when God's judgment falls on a nation, it's the sin of the people and the politicians and the preachers.
I'll be pretty brief here this morning and try to speak a little bit about some of the personal issues that I deal with in Harrisburg as a state senator there, and why I appreciate this attempt to try to work with area pastors and get a partnership built so that we can move forward together. As Sam expressed, one leg of the stool can't do everything. I mean, whether it's somebody in government or somebody at the church or somebody leading their family, we need to work together in this society to accomplish better things. And we see, I think we all acknowledge, and I hear it every day, how far our nation has deteriorated from what our founding fathers, their hopes and dreams and visions for this country once were, and where we are today. And it is disgusting to me, a lot of the things that I have to see on a daily basis in the newspaper, hear from colleagues, hear from people on the street, and just see examples of are all around us. We're fighting some very difficult battles, and most of us feel, or most people feel, that we're losing these battles. And the homosexuality issue is a very, very dangerous issue for our churches in this country. We have many examples around the country where once we allow special privileges, once we allow marriages, things like that, churches' nonprofit statuses will be affected. If they deny for their own beliefs things like that to happen on their property, they won't participate, they won't allow things. They'll be sued, their nonprofit status will be challenged. This happens over and over again. And it happens to people in the community, photographers, other people that refuse to participate. I would appreciate the help of folks that are here and others in our community, so that we can work together in a stronger partnership. And my commitment to you is that I am very willing to start to have regular meetings, maybe monthly, and we can see how that goes, with folks in our community here in the 30th Senatorial District, for me, that would like to sit down and talk about issues and see what we can do to help. Maybe I can give them a better understanding of what's happening with certain things in Harrisburg. They can give me their perspective, their counsel as ministers, their advice to me, bringing the scripture and their understanding of their biblical understanding to me and to that issue, so that I can help with that, use that knowledge in a better way.
Good morning. I'm Representative Jerry Stern of the 80th District, and Sam and I were first elected back in 1992 together, so we came in the same class. And it was always a privilege and pleasure to serve with Sam and be able to go to someone, brother in the Lord, to be able to bounce things off of. So appreciate your service in the General Assembly, Sam. And I know that feeling sometimes where you just start wondering and questioning, what am I doing? And I've been thinking about that more and more recently as far as service, in public service. But it goes back to, and I've had more of a burden recently on everything we've been talking about here this morning. And Senator Eichelberger touched on it here. We have a whole array of issues. We have pro-life issues. We have the same-sex issues. We have, there's a House bill, Senate Bill 300 about sexual orientation. The people that are currently making decisions, whether it's the Supreme Court, whether it's executive branch, or whether it's your legislature, have some kind of view. They have a worldview, whatever the world says it is, whatever they've been taught, or they have a biblical worldview. There's two worldviews. It's pretty distinct. It's a biblical worldview or a worldly or secular worldview. And that's really what it boils down to.
What we're doing through PPN and Ministers Together is not a political endeavor.
That's correct.
It's a biblically based endeavor. And, we must pray for and encourage people of every office, because people of every office have been raised up by God to lead this nation. And, some may be Democrats, some may be Republican, but this is a non-political endeavor to encourage and strengthen God's ministers in government. We commit ourselves to that too. It's not a politically divided institution.